Good evening and welcome back to our weekly question and answer series for nash.org. Question: someone mistakenly bought a product that has chalav akim and cannot return the package. Can they give the chalav akim product to a goy? As I mentioned in previous shi'urim, in Shechanah Yeridai Semakifni in Aleph Sifid Aleph says a person cannot give a present, a matana, a matnas chinam for a non-Jew because there's a isser of lo yisechunaim. That means you cannot give any presents if you don't have any te'ilas, if you don't gain something with giving the present. If you gain something from giving it for the goy, you could give. And therefore, a person could give to his employer, a person could give for a worker, for a cleaning lady, because he gains. She will become more loyal to him, and therefore, it's not a problem to give. But if just giving for someone else without the elves, it is a problem als lo yisechunaim. So, if you want to give away this food which has chalav akim to a goy, a non-Jew, there's no problem if you gain something by giving it to him. If it's a goy which you know and you want to have a good relation and you're going to gain something from him, yes, there's no problem to giving it for a goy. You could give him even a piece of non-kosher food to begin with. So there's no problem. But giving it for a goy which you don't know, just because you don't want to throw it away, so you want to give someone else that he should eat it, it's aser als lo yisechunaim. Question: I was learning through Tlmud of the Alter Rebbe, and I was wondering, what does a Yid need to know and learn to fulfill the mitzvah practically? What are the priorities, especially if you have only 1 hour or so to learn? There is also Chitas and Rambam and Yunigila, Chasidus, the Rebbe's Torah. What do we need? What's our priorities to learn? Hilchos Talmud Torah is a very complicated halacha, especially the Alter Rebbe wrote it beautifully, and a lot of Chedishim is over there, and he was probably the first who wrote a whole sefer on Hilchos Talmud Torah. And the Alter Rebbe is machadash over there that there's 2 mitzvahs. There's a mitzvah of Yediyas HaTorah, and this is we learn from the pasuk Velmadatem Oisam. You have to learn, and there's a mitzvah of limud Torah of V'gisi Bayom V'laylu, and there's 2 different mitzvahs and has different halachas. Mitzvah Yediyas HaTorah is the mitzvah if it's possible for a person who has a right mind and a good memory, and he could learn Kol HaTorah Kila, the whole Torah, Torah Shebaksav, Torah Shebal Peh, then a person is mechiyev of mitzvah Yediyas HaTorah, and he has to make his job arai, temporarily, and he has to live chayai tzar, that means not a lavish life, because he is capable of the mitzvahs of Yediyas HaTorah to learn Kol HaTorah Kila, B'ksav vil bapeh. This mitzvah also, if a person is capable, is so strong that you could push off the mitzvah of piri v'riba, so therefore you could push off marrying in order of the mitzvah Yediyas HaTorah. But that's only a person which is in the right mind, the right capacity, in the right cycle, that he could basically be mekayem the mitzvah of Yediyas HaTorah. Then there's a mitzvah of limud Torah, which is v'gisi bayom v'laylu. This is for every person. Even a person which basically finished the whole Kol HaTorah Kila and it was mekayem the mitzvah of Yediyas HaTorah, he still has a choiv to learn v'gisi bayom v'laylu. And the same is a person which is not masigel, he's not capable of learning Kol HaTorah Kila. So basically he's not capable of the mitzvah of Yediyas HaTorah. He still has a mitzvah of v'gisi bayom v'laylu, but for this mitzvah he doesn't need to live chayai tzar, and he doesn't have to make his work temporarily, and this is the squeeze in the Torah. It depends every person how much he could learn and as much time as he has. If he has more time, he's mechiyev mitzad v'gisa b'yom v'layla to learn more. If he has less time, he doesn't need to learn that much. As the Alter Rebbe writes in Tanya, Perek Echet Shachras, Perek Echet Arvis, even you could be mekayim with this if you don't have the time. Because for this mitzvah, you don't have to live chaya itzar and make temporarily your work. So a person which is not shayach of Yidis HaTorah and to know Kol HaTorah Killa, so at least he has V'gisi Moyim V'layla and has to see as much time he could learn. Now what should he learn in that time? He should learn Hilchas Atzrichas L'Yaydi. He has to have halacha. And he has to learn halacha, which is Negeya L'Maisa. That means Arachayim, Hilchas, the Luchs of Arachayim is very important because this is on a daily basis. Hilchas Shabbos, Hilchas Yom Tov, Hilchas Sukkah. These halachas you have to know because you have to know how to be a Yid. And the same will be halachas of Yeredeyu, which it is Shaykh for Chaya Yom Yom. So you have to learn. So a person which cannot be Mekayim Mitzvahs Dis HaTorah, has the Mitzvah Limas HaTorah, and he should take the halachas which is the most important to know on a daily basis. And the rest of his time, with the Alter Rebbe, he could work, and he should be machzik loimda Torah. So to answer your question, with learning all these things, and you still have some time to learn, what should you learn? The most important thing is to learn halacha, lamaisa. You should know how to be a ehrlich Yid, according to Shekhanah. Also, it's kedai, you look in, Alter Rebbe is also, writes this, the kiddah, also in Chassidus, in Mamur al Marazuk, Akzurim Shihid, that is the two mitzvahs, and it has different chiyivim of Yediyas HaTorah and Limud HaTorah. Question. Regarding the custom to give my Rav money before Yom Tov, can I use Muz Maser? Can I give it for Maser money? And what about giving to teachers? The answer is, as we mentioned in previous shir, that the priority for giving Maser is, if it's not a chiyuv to give or to buy, you could give it for Maser. You cannot buy tefillin, you cannot buy a esrig, you cannot buy a mitzvah which you are mechiyuv to do with Mos Maser, because that's your chiyuv. But any mitzvah you're not mechiyuv, you could give for Mos Maser, for Maser money. So giving your Rav, which is not a choif, it's a very nice thing, and it's appropriate, but it's not a choif, and there's no specific thing which you have to give, amount which you have to give. It's not like machzes a shekel, that you have to give, and you have a specific amount how much you have to give, and therefore you could give for the Rav, for Maisa money, and the same will go also to a teacher. If at least the teacher is a oni, that means he doesn't have a lot of money, goes into the category of tzedakah, so therefore, yes, you could give it from Mos Maser, and since you're not machiyev to give it, you don't have to give. So therefore, yes, you could give it from Mos Maser. If, for instance, the teacher has a good, nice salary, and according to Hilchos Tzedakah, he's not machiyev, he cannot take tzedakah, then you cannot give it from Mos Maser, because that's not a choiv, that's not a mitzvah, it's not tzedakah. But a Rav he could always give, because he's always in that category, because the way how he lives is most of the Rabbanim through people giving them before Yom Tov. Question. Regarding buying a home from a Jew, buying from a Jew item, how much more should I pay to buy from a Jew? And what about quality difference? We elaborated on this subject a while ago, in one of the previous shiurim, and I mentioned then that according to the Chivas Remu, is mashma, it comes out that even the goy is a lot cheaper, you still have to buy by the Jew. But a lot of poskim do not paskin according to the Chuvas Remu, and the whole it goes a shtis. Shtis means a sixtel. That means it's 16.67%. If the difference between the yid, the price of the yid and the price of the goy, is less than 16%, you should buy by the yid. If it's more than 16%, you could go and buy by the non-Jew. And as I explained over there, how you calculate this thing. Another thing which you wanted to know, what about quality difference? Is if there is a difference in quality, then you don't have to buy by the Jew to begin with, because it's not the same product. The Jew and the non-Jew don't have the same product. The Jew has a less quality product, the Goy has a better quality product, so automatically it's not the same item, and you could buy it from the non-Jew even if it's less than 16%. The same will also go if he has a better return policy. That means by the non-Jew you can have a good policy to return it if something happens, and by the Jew you don't have this policy. You could buy by the non-Jew as well. One more final thing, the Chofetz Chaim writes in the Sefer that if there is a set price how much a thing costs, and the Jew, the Yid, raises the price more than the set price, the regular normal price which it is, you don't need to buy by the Yid. But that's only if it's a set price, because this item goes all over the same price and only the Yid asks more, you don't have to buy by the Yid. But if it isn't in this case, you have to buy by the Yid till it is more with 16%. Question. I laid out money for someone, now they paid me back and rounded up the total amount. Is it a problem of ribas? Example, they owed me $9.90 and paid me back a $10 bill. The answer is, it is a problem, yes. Is a ribas, steht in Shekhanah Yedai Semekif Samach Alaf, Sif Alaf, is a fila bepuches meshuva perita. Even less than a shuva perita, it is also Isser ribas. But you cannot take it out by bezdin. That means if I gave you ribas and it's less than a shuva perita, if it's ribas b'daraisa, the halacha is that I could go to bezdin and take back the ribas, the interest which I gave. If it's less than a shuva perita, you cannot go to bezdin and take it out by the yonam. The Alter Rebbe writes in Yeradaya Hilchos Ribas, Siv Zayin, that when you pay off a loan, l'chol hadayis, you cannot give even a drop more than you own. And even if you don't have in mind als ribas, and even if you had, usually you could give for this person $1 or $2 just a matana. But if you lend money, you borrowed money from someone else and you pay it back, by the time you pay it back, you cannot give extra anything. So, coming to your question, that you owe someone owed you $9.90, he cannot give you back a $10 bill, because he gives you a dime, he gives you 10 cents extra, b'shas hapiruan. So therefore, it is a problem of ribas. Now, it doesn't help when he says the 10 cents which is extra, I give you for a matana. Because even when you give it for a matana, it's not, it doesn't help. What does help, if you don't have the 10 cents to give back, you could say that the 10 cents you should give for tzedakah b'shlichas. That means the person who borrowed from you the money and he gives you back now 10 cents more, should tell you that you should give the 10 cents for tzedakah and his shlichas. So therefore, he doesn't give you any money. He gives you money that you should give for tzedakah, and then there's not a problem. You can see this also in Shal Shiv's Meches Yitzchak, Chaylik Tesim and Paites, and the Mishnah's Ribas, Mishnah's Harav of Ribas, Sifkut Nim Beis. So to answer your question, no, you cannot give back even this 10 cents in order to round up for a $10 bill. Question: is it preferable to get Alter Rebbe ksav of mezuzahs? And why are the Alter Rebbe's mezuzahs more expensive? The answer is, if you have a sofer which writes ksav admar azuk, the Alter Rebbe's script, in a fashion which is according ausgehalten, according to halacha, all the way, of course we Chassidah Chabad should buy, if we can, we should buy the script of the Alter Rebbe. But you have to make sure it is a reliable sofer, because not everybody who writes the Alter Rebbe's ksav knows how to write it, and sometimes it's problematic also in halacha. So therefore, you have to make sure to have from a sofer mimcha who knows the Alter Rebbe's ksav and who knows the halacha. Now the question why it's more expensive, very simple. Since there isn't that much of soferim who writes the Alter Rebbe's ksav, like there is people who write ksavari, so therefore automatically if you don't have so much soferim who write this ksav, automatically it gets more expensive. But yes, it is kedai, if you can, and you have a nice kosher mezuzah from the Alter Rebbe, you should buy from the Alter Rebbe's ksav. Question: do I need to give every poor person that knocks on my door or goes around in shul tzedukah? The halacha is that if a poor person asks you for tzedukah, you have to give him tzedukah. And the Melech writes in Tilim, in Kapitel Ein Dalet, Chof Aleph, Al Yoshuv Dach Nichlam. You shouldn't push away a poor person and not give him, you should be ashamed. So the halacha paskins, whenever a poor person comes to you, you have to give something. You don't have to give a lot, but something. Duvra miet. And the Ramah writes, even geroigres achet, one fig. Or like the Urech HaShulchan writes, a kezayis of bread, it's enough. So, something you have to give. Other poskim write that even if it's less than Shuvah Perita, you're also yoitza that you didn't push away a poor person, al yushiv dach nichlam. And this is what it says in Derech Hamina, Parik Zayin, Melichas Matnas Haniyim, Sekut Mem Tes, that even less than Shuvah Perita. But from the Meiri, it comes out that lefuchas you have to give him a Shuvah Perita. So to answer your question, if a poor person comes to you, yes, you have to give at least a Shuvah Perita, something you have to give him. You shouldn't be over al yushiv dach nichlam. But that's only if the poor person comes to you himself. If someone else goes around for tzedakah and he goes around for poor people, he doesn't take it for himself, he gives it for other people, it does not go into the category of al yushiv dach nichlam, and mitzad alucha you don't have to give him. But if the poor person himself comes to you, you have to give him something in order not to push away a poor person. Question: we learned in Rambam in Matnas Haniyim Parik Zayin Luch Gimel that you have to give for a poor person whatever is missing him. That means if he doesn't have clothing, you have to give him clothing. If he doesn't have a house, you have to give him shelter. If he doesn't have a wife, you have to give him a wife, marry him. Everything what he needs. You don't have to make him for a millionaire, but you have to give him, he should have whatever he needs. Is this really what I need to do when a poor person comes to me, knocks on my door, or in shul, and he asks for a donation? Do I have to give him whatever it's missing him? Is this what we need to do practical? A very good question, but if you look at the Shechan answers this question. The Shechan in Yerdai Simmerai Shnian, Sif Aleph, brings down this halacha that you have to give for a person dai machsoire ashi echser, whatever is missing him. If he needs clothing, you have to give him clothing. If he needs utensils, you have to give him utensils. Even if he needs a car, you have to give him a car. But the Ramur writes that all this thing is only by Gabbat Tzedukah. The Gabbat Tzedukah has to give him. The Rab, the Tzibur, has to make sure that he has whatever he needs to have. But the Yochid, the individual, is not Machiv to give Dai Machsoira. That means the halacha which we have, that we have to give for a poor person as much as he needs, that's on the Tzibur to give him. That's not every person, individual, does not have to give him this much. He could give as much as he Yudim Asegis, as much as he can. That's number one. Number two, in the Rambam itself, if you look there, which you mentioned Parik Zayin, Matnasanim, but you look a little bit further, Halucha Zayin, the Rambam brings down that a person which goes around and knocks on the door or goes in shul and collects money for himself, you don't need to give Matuna Mariba, means whatever it's missing him, and you have to give him Matuna Me'etas. As I mentioned before, Matuna Me'etas could be even a Shava Prita. And Rasha, it's Beitzim HaGemorah in Masechtes Bava Basra Daf Tesum Ad Alav. Rasha explains why a person which goes around knocking at the door, you don't have to give what the Torah says, Dai Machsoir Ashi Echser, because since he is already accustomed to go around and knocking on people's doors, so therefore it's not considered a nitzrich, because if I'm not going to give him the full amount, someone else could give him, together with asking around all the doors, he will collect as much as he needs. So a person which goes collecting, to begin with, the halacha is that you don't have to give him Matuna Mariba. This halacha which we talk, it is only if we know a person which is a very poor person, and he sits in his own, and he's ashamed to go around collecting money, so the tzibur is mechiv to give him whatever he needs. But individual does not have to give him, even a person which does not go around collecting. And a person which goes around collecting, even the tzibur does not have to give, because by collecting, he goes around, automatically he will get all the money which he needs. So to answer your question, do a person who knocks on your door or comes by in your shul and asks you for a donation, do you have to give whatever it's missing him? No, you don't have to give whatever it's missing him, since that he's already going around collecting money. He's not ashamed of collecting money. It is as if that he has some kind of parnasa, he could get it from other people, and you don't have to give more than a matur me'etas. But again, as I mentioned before, if it's the oni himself, the poor person himself, you cannot push him away without giving anything. You have to give him something, because if you don't give anything, then you're over of the Isser al Yushev Dach Nichla. Okay, thank you for joining us, and please join us again next week and send in your questions to inbox@anash.org. Good night and have a wonderful week.